technical questions.
My technical question for you is, it appears that on Squarespace, that my search function is not global. It's not global one. I mean, it's not picking up every single word on the site.
Okay.
For example, words on the home page,
Yep.
doesn't recognize them at all.
Yeah.
And words on some other pages, it doesn't recognize them either.
Okay.
I looked into it to because when I look at that block, you typically add the block, the search block on some templates in some specific spots on the site. So when I look at the that specific block, which is in the footer,
we have it in the footer. Yeah.
The footer allows to do that. So I have it in the footer.
Yep.
And I check, for example, there's the option of limiting it to a specific page.
Oh, really? Okay.
That specific page is not, it's not activated, but yet the search doesn't expand. The search function doesn't expand globally to pick up the word.
Yeah.
Wherever it is on the website.
I actually don't know the answer to that question. I'd have to look into that, what their search does. It may only reference like the headers of like sections. I don't know. It's a great question. I know I struggled with it with my website. When I had my co-working site, it didn't seem to find the things that I thought it should find. I'd have to look that one up for you.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
Speaking of co-working,
yeah.
I don't remember, a couple of days ago, I believe I may have seen an article about the expansion of the idea of co-working.
Yeah.
A lot of people are now in a hybrid mode, and many workers are reluctant to going back to the office 24. The normal 40 hours a week.
Yeah,
they are reluctant to do it. So this is an area that is expanding quite much. And I thought about you.
Yeah.
How this is something that how this thing can be done to support businesses.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see. People have gotten very used to working out of their home, right? And you're right, they're completely reluctant to go back 40 hours a week and do that commute every day. And so businesses have recognized that, and they're now talking about maybe 2 or 3 days a week going in, whatever. Those days that individuals are home, I think it's going to be very difficult to get them out of their home into a co-working space,
Okay.
And home was always my biggest competition when I ran my co-working space, because home is free. Home has all the amenities that you want. And so why would I pay to go work somewhere else, which isn't my office? That was always a struggle for me. And I think that it's gonna continue. The only plus that I see is people are sick of working in their home. For 2 years we've been working in our homes, and people want to get out. So for those businesses that maybe have closed their doors, because they no longer need a storefront, and people are working remote 100% of the time, I think those become good candidates for the co-working space. I mean, co-working spaces were always good for individuals like yourself, right? You're a consultant. You're going to go out, you're going to meet people. If you're meeting another consultant, well, you're not going to meet in each other's kitchen, right? You need a place to meet. So co-working spaces became a really great alternative for those types of scenarios, right? For $20, you could have rented a very professional meeting room and met someone at my space, and it included all the technology for you to put your laptops up on big screen TVs. It had high-end, high-efficient Wi-Fi, secure environment, locked down from a cybersecurity perspective, free coffee, free tea, and a very clean and professional space. You had someone at the front desk who could have met your client, walked them to your office, you know, I mean, so we did
Wow.
all of that. So we provided a very professional environment. And so that's going to continue. You know, more and more people are working out of their homes. They need to meet with people. So meeting in a co-working space is that alternative to coffee shops, right? Which are fine if you know the person and it's a casual meeting. A coffee shop isn't bad, but it's hard to, it's hard for you guys to work on a computer together, you know, to look stuff up, to do stuff. You got people sipping soup all around you. You know, it's just not a very professional environment.
I didn't really even think about it for myself, but
Yeah.
I see it as a great idea, and I see myself embracing something like that,
Yeah.
because eventually I would like to expand my business in other locations.
Yeah.
Or even here in Massachusetts,
Right.
there are times when I'm meeting with clients. You know, if I have a much more convenient place, there are some meetings that I would like to have. I may be able to
Right.
do outside of my
Yep.
headquarters.
Yeah.
So for me, so my question to you is for example, the idea of the co-working space that you just described, that you use to provide, is very attracting to me, to my business. For example, I would like eventually to have a presence in, for example, in DC.
Yeah.
That's my first place in DC. I definitely would like to have a presence.
Yeah.
So this is something that's very relevant
Yeah.
to someone like me, whereby I don't necessarily I don't need to be present in DC 24/7.
Of course.
Every week.
Yeah.
But when I do travel there, for
Yep.
example, organizing with clients.
Yeah.
So this is something, it would be great.
Yeah. And I mean, they're all over the country. So, you know, if you go into any major city, you're going to find them. And so, yeah, they're ideal for that scenario. And, you know, if you're in DC a lot, right, you find the co-working space that fits your profile the best, and that's what you stick with. And, you know, and I had meeting rooms that were capable of handling up to 20 people. You know, so if you wanted to do a training in DC, you know, you could use one of these co-working facilities to do that training. Or more likely, you're going to bring in 5 or 6 people from different companies to all be together to brainstorm, you know, so you rent a bigger room. So my rooms, I had 4 rooms, one held 4, one held 8, another held 15, and then the last one held 20.
Now, my question to you, as far as the relationship between the business and the co-working space, for example, personally, I need a location-based business. For example, I need a DC presence.
Yeah.
So is it something that a co-working place can?
Yeah. So a lot of the co-working spaces actually provide mailboxes, right? So you actually could have a DC address at that co-working space.
Okay. I mean, my question for example, in Google.
Yeah.
Google wants you to provide them, for companies to provide them with an actual physical address.
Yep.
Not a mailbox.
Right.
So
but it is a physical address. So like my clients, I was at, I don't even remember the number. It was 450 Grove Street, Worcester, Mass. My clients were in suite number 100 at 450 Grove Street, and Google recognized that as a valid address. So if you looked at my building, you'd see, like, I had 75 clients who had addresses at my place. So you looked at my location and you'd see all these businesses at my location.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of pricing, how much typically that they charge?
They're all over the place, to be honest with you.
What's the range typically?
Are you talking about addresses or meeting rooms?
Combined.
You know, the addressing piece is generally a couple of $100 a year, right? Because you have to compete with the UPS store and with a mailbox, a post office. So it's only about, I think I used to charge $20, $30 a month at best for mine. And, I also provided a service where whenever you got mail, I scanned the envelope and sent it to you in an email. So you knew when something, showed up there. The meeting rooms, they really range quite a bit by co-working space, by location. I charged anywhere from $20 to $40, depending on the size of the room. I've seen meeting rooms up to $150 an hour. So in the Boston area, if you went to WeWorks in Boston, you'll probably pay $7,500 an hour for a meeting room there.
Okay. Now, some of those companies provide as well. So you said that, for example, in your office, you used to when before the meeting, the clients walking, there's someone that will guide in, who ushered the clients in.
Yeah.
So do they provide answering services as well?
Some do. I know a lot don't, but some will definitely provide those services. I did not do any phone services at my co-working space. It just got very complicated quickly. Like, how do I answer the phone? How do I know what business they're calling for? And nobody wanted me to answer it. Welcome to Clearly Co-working. So I stayed away from that component. But we had someone at the front desk at all times. If I had a client there in a meeting room, like a good example, this time of year, I had tons of accountants who used my space. They would hand me their schedule when they came in, and they rented a room for the day. So I knew what of their clients were coming in. I would greet them. Hello, and Mr. and Mrs. Jones, are you here to see, such and such? Have a seat. She'll be out in a minute. I'd go get her. She'd come out and get her clients, so it was a really nice professional environment. And it really, to her clients, it really felt like it was her place, and I was working for her, or whoever was at the front desk was, her assistant.
Oh, that's very nice. Now, is there a directory whereby co-working space are listed?
Yeah, there's a bunch of online websites that list co-working spaces. I'm trying to think of like Liquid Space. That's an odd name, but Liquid Space was one of them. There's another one called Da Vinci. So these are all online listings for co-working spaces.
So you said Da Vinci?
Da Vinci, like the painter. Yeah.
And
Liquid Space.
Liquid Space?
Yeah. And then there are, the alternative, right, are the chains. So WeWorks is a international co-working space. So if you go to WeWorks's website, you will find all of their locations around the world.
Okay.
In Massachusetts, so they're in Massachusetts. The second largest co-working space is a company called Work Bar. All right. And so they have multiple locations, I think only in Massachusetts.
Oh, okay. So
they're only Massachusetts based. Now I haven't looked them up. Maybe they've expanded to other states, but and then there's a company called VentureX. They are US based, not a lot of locations, but they're in multiple locations in the US.
So you said VentureX, right?
VentureX, yeah. The closest to you, there's only one in Massachusetts, and that's in Marlborough.
Are you familiar with the concept of, wait, I forgot the word, representative agent, something like that? I'm not sure if it's the correct word. For example, when I filed with the Secretary of State, there is that entity who is responsible for getting all business documents, etc. The Working Spaces Act, can they act as well? Because if they are
not that I'm aware of, it's a good idea.
If they are forwarding the mail, if they are, the mail aspect thing.
Yeah, you're talking about a resident agent, so you had the right term.
Yes, that's yes.
It has to be a physical person. That's what the state of Massachusetts requires. So, the whole idea behind a resident agent is if you're not available, they have someone they can go to get access to your business. Generally, resident agents are only for businesses that work out of state. So you don't need a resident agent in Massachusetts. You have a Mass address, so you don't need a resident agent. But if you lived in Delaware and you did business in Massachusetts and registered with Massachusetts, you would need a resident agent to represent you here in Massachusetts. So a co-working space wouldn't work because they need a name. They need a person. It's a good idea, but
so they need a name, they need a person. So let's say I'm a small business. I have a co-working space in DC.
Yeah.
So can I list that space? I mean, because the idea is that they are receiving my mail, that co-working space is receiving the mail. So it's like I have a presence there.
Yep.
So,
and so I know companies use MySpace like that. They registered their business in Massachusetts. They use MySpace as the address. And
so
I don't know though if what's that?
Okay. So
I don't know if they had a resident agent or not. I don't know. I had one client who was based out of Guam and he used MySpace as his Massachusetts location. Yeah, so I'm not sure about that. That's stretching it a little bit.
I mean, it's like, again, I'm thinking in terms of my business expansion, because in my line of work, having a DC presence
makes sense.
Is very important.
Yeah.
So I'm about to go live. So if I can find that co-working space, if I have a co-working space, so I'm legit for example, to put on my website that address as one of the location for the business. Because
I just don't know how that works from a legal perspective of registering with the state of DC, when you register your business there. I don't know if you could use that. I don't think so, because again, they're looking for a physical body in the state. Now you may have an address in an office there, right?
But for the resident agent, I will need that.
You need a person who lives in the state.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the idea maybe, I mean, if I do find that co-working space, ask them if they do provide such service as well.
You could, yeah. Yep.
So your company used to provide that service as well? No?
We did not provide resident agency. No, we provided mail. That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for your.
We also did a lot of them do when you need a signature.
I see.
A notary.
Notary services.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was a notary and my assistant was a notary as well. So if somebody needed something signed, they could come to our space and we would do it. Yep.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us during Tech Talks.
I have another meeting sponsored by by Score.
Okay.
So it started at noon.
Okay.
I'm heading to that meeting.
All right. Good seeing you.
Thank you so much. And
I'll see you next week.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.